One sec. Hey spooky friends, did you know that pumpkin carving, apple bobbing, and donning costumes are all part of a beautiful ancient culture that predates Christianity by a long shot? So today, let's talk about Samhain.
Samhain.
A 3-day Celtic pagan festival, which just so happens to be part of my culture. Now, I am going to preface this video by stating that this is going to be about what I've learned and my personal practices that involve celebrating Samhain. It's going to be about what I do specifically and why, and what the meaning behind those practices are for me. I'm not going to say that this is a true representation of what Samhain is because I am not Wiccan, I do not practice witchcraft, nor am I specifically pagan, although I am pagan, leaning more so to the agnostic side in terms of religion and religious practices. Now, I do believe that there is a God, but as many of you already know, my belief is that God is in everything, God is everywhere, and that I'm not going to put a label on. So again, this video is all just about my beliefs, my practices that I think are really beautiful, and the reason why I do those practices, why we do the things we do, and what the symbolism is of all of this. Now, I will also say that I would rather you practice exactly what you feel is right, because then it will be more meaningful for you, and it's not just going to be you following some religion, because that's what the entire problem is. So, Samhain, let's jump into it. I live really moderately when it comes to faith. I definitely am very thankful. The most important thing for me during Samhain is taking time to properly welcome the spirits of your ancestors into your home and life, and to praise their memory, praise everything that came before you. It's the most important thing you can do during this time. So if you take away nothing from my video that you're about to hear, I'm fine with that as long as you remember to honor your ancestors and be grateful for what came before you. I praise my ancestors and their memory because their sacrifices and their choices led to me being here and living the beautiful life that I get to live. So this gratefulness that I have, it comes from this deep-rooted understanding that they came before me, they did what they had to do, and now I get to live my life in such a beautiful way because of them. So I have to honor them. So this is the time where you pull up a chair, or I will pull up a chair, I'll sit down and I'll spend time with them. And I'll tell you exactly how that looks. You've probably already heard that Halloween is the time where the veil is the thinnest between life and death. And that is exactly true when it comes to Samhain. It's the time when spirits can come forward and spend time with you. This is the time when our ancestors come out to play, so to speak, and they come to visit from the astral plane, or the spirit world, if it were. This belief is so ancient. It comes from the history of the Celts, who lived during the Iron Age, which is now Ireland, Scotland, and the UK, specifically to the north, and some other parts of Northern Europe. You'll see that a lot of the Viking and Celt religious practices are very similar, and that's because the people were really similar and intermingled easily, not to mention they were all really good looking and nobody could resist, not even me. The word Samhain comes from the ancient Gaelic word, meaning literally, to most people, summer's end. Now, it can mean something different. I won't get into it, but there is a lot of meaning behind this word. For most, it is related to summer's end. It's the end of the summer, the celebration of the harvest, and a time to reflect on the year ahead. This is ushering in the new year, and it's signaled by a time of both death and rebirth, which is very well encompassed in my culture. It's very accepted that death will occur and rebirth will occur from that. And this is something that is undoubtedly symbolic of the harvest, because it coincided with the end of a bountiful harvest season with the celebration of everything that you've gotten from the earth. It's the beginning of the darker and colder winter season that would present many challenges going forward. So this would be the time when you would get together with friends, family, neighbors, whoever, your community, and have a 3-day feast, which sounds amazing, but now we kind of don't do that here. Although I will. And there will be alcohol, you know that. So it was a 3-day feast to celebrate the harvest, and they'd kind of take stock of the year. They would reflect over what happened over the year, what went really well, what went not so well, what could they do different for the future going forward. It was a time to kind of stop in your tracks and say, like, what had happened was, and Mad Elegant going forward is this. Thank you, Daddy Rocka, for teaching me Mad Elegant. Now, there could be animal sacrifice at this point. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that. It's not done as much these days for us, though there are other cultures that do that, so whatever. The animal sacrifice would be to appease the spirits and to thank them for the year that they've had, kind of give back. And it would be in order to gain favor to survive the winter months coming ahead, because back in the day, winter was really, really hard to live through. Now, I know you might be wondering, but Kat, how did Samhain become All Hallows Eve, aka Halloween? When did that happen? Well, what had happened was, you can ask the Romans. Now, I'm not going to get so much into that history because it's dark, dingy, and not the tone of what I wanted to speak on today. But they wanted to bastardize the culture in order to gain the pagans' favor and kind of bring them over to the dark side, because we have cookies, but we have our own cookies. And our own cookies are like so good. It was meant to take away the strength of my beautiful ancestors and bring them over to the religion and the culture of what would be during that time. The calendar of the Celts is sort of broken up into, I'm gonna really simplify this, is an entire year, and it's broken up into 4 fire festivals, which is really awesome. Samhain happens, which is the end of summer. It is the start of the dark season. And don't ever think that that's a negative thing. It just means that the sky will be dark. That's really simplifying it. My people do be loving that fire though. Yo, that's fire. Oh yes, fire is a huge part of this whole thing. It's probably the most important part, I say, but you know, fire and candles are key to celebrating a really successful Samhain. It's thought that this is a really great way to guide the spirits home, bring people together, bring warmth, bring energy, bring light to the community. So you would either have a bonfire, sit around the fire, reminisce, talk, and give your offerings to the spirits there, or you could light a candle. Specifically, I'll get into the candle work that is done during this time. If I'm gonna steal a word from the Wiccans, the candle work. People would be around the bonfire, they would be dancing, eating, having a great time, and it's just a really good like coming together ceremony for the end. A really great celebration. And that's the point. You want it to be like a really happy celebration. You don't want it to be dark or marred. Now, I know some people are very stringent on what should be done during this time. I'm just saying focus on the important things, which is your ancestors and celebrating your family and celebrating all that's gone on for you this year. It's common for people to dance together, but it is also a time to reminisce and sort of be thankful and be present for those who have passed and understand that their energy is always going to be with you. They never truly die if you remember them and love them, even if you don't even know their names. That's not relevant. It's the fact that they came before you, they taught everyone before you, and then you showed up and you were like, what's poppin'? Don't mind me, just watching. So sharing stories and remembering the ones you love, it's the most important part of the season. Along the lines of fire, it's also said that the jack-o'-lantern was sort of invented. Now, not that word, mind you, there's a whole other ball of wax to that story, but the common jack-o'-lantern that you see today, as in putting a candle inside of a gourd, and that would help aid the spirits in finding their way home and also dissuade evil spirits from coming to you, hence why they would put like a really scary looking face on it. The spirits would be like, whoa, don't want to go there because Buddy's got issues, is what they'd say. But it would protect you from the spirits that were hiding in the darkness, waiting. Speaking of spirits and hiding in the darkness, the reason why we would dress up in sort of costumes or masquerade and disguise our identity was to protect from the evil spirits noticing you, knowing who you were, following you home, and harming you in any way. Now, this has changed over the years to be like dressing up as something that you want to look like a unicorn or like this. Bitch, it is 2020. You think that by now you would understand that this is not okay. Never gonna be okay. Stop doing this. Thank you. This is also when offerings were left for the Fae or ancestral spirits to honor their presence and their sacrifices. It could be also a time when they would sacrifice crops or animals to appease the ancestors, to sort of honor them and thank them. So to honor them today, I would be placing an offering like apples or wine or cider, or for me, scotch, or something along the lines of something that they can enjoy. Something that's important to you that you're willing to give up a little bit of. It's also the time when you would sort of set a place for them at the table. It doesn't even have to be like a full-on place setting, but set a place for them so that there is room for them to be, or room for you to honor them by like literally looking at an empty space and being like, they should be here and they're not, so I'm going to honor them while they're here. That's kind of the symbolism behind it. It's a time to sit with family and friends, to drink, to enjoy, and to remember the people verbally. Talk about them. I know it's hard when you've lost someone and it hurts, even animals, pets. Talk about them. This is the time to sit around and talk about those you've lost in a way that remembers them in a positive light. It's a way to make space for them and to talk about what you've learned from them. It's very important. Like, what did I learn from this person? What have I learned from my ancestors? What do I wish I knew? I'm so thankful that they've done this, and I'm so thankful that they brought this to us. That kind of thing, very important to do during this time. It's a way to keep them alive, keep their memory going. It's a time to honor the fact that they gave you the life that you have. This is also the time where we begin our predictions for the year. What's to come? Divination plays a really key role in the plans for our future. Tarot card reading, rune reading, tea leaf reading, or even using a pendulum. It's a really great way to kind of bring your hopes forward towards the future and to get some answers from the ancestors on what's to come. These are activities that I do with you guys, I do with my friends, I do with my family. It's not just like kind of entertainment. It's a way for you to put your hopes forward to the future. What do you want to get out of the year? Reflect on that and then use divination to see whether it's going to happen or not. Possibly. A time for us to be grateful for what we've been given and also to be hopeful for what's about to come. I don't want to go into detail about what the church has done to eradicate and or change Halloween/Samhain. They basically sucked in a bunch of our customs into their culture as a part of a way to bring the pagans in. I'd like to focus more on the positive side and the past and what it means to us, moving forward with light and love. So I know you're thinking, what can I do to celebrate Samhain? What does it look like? Well, I've got a little list here. Some things are really easy to do. Some things are a little bit trickier. Some people are kind of embarrassed to show their style to others. Don't worry about what anyone else thinks. That's not the point of Samhain. The point of Samhain is your family. So let's start with number 1. What can I do to start to celebrate Samhain? Really easy, just walk around in nature, take in the beauty of what's around you. Be grateful for what you're seeing. Appreciate the cycle of death and rebirth. Gather up some natural objects such as acorns or leaves or dirt if you want to. Bring it into your home. This is something that's going to keep you company during the wintertime. You can reflect over it during the long winter ahead. Number 2, set up a Samhain altar. So you can use skulls or ghosts, pictures of skulls. It doesn't have to be an actual skull. Generally they would use human skulls, but you don't have to do that. Or if you find an animal skull and want to clean it up, sure. But skulls are a representation of the death part and also a way for the ancestors to kind of come through. It's more symbolic than anything else. Harvest food like pumpkins, squash, gourds, root vegetables, even some of the herbs you've taken from the season. Bring those into your home and put them on display. Hence why we do pumpkins. We got pumpkins all over this, isn't it? Placing nuts, dried berries, dark breads, like pumpernickel, as well as herbs like mugwort, catnip, allspice, rosemary, sage. I say lavender, cloves. Bring in objects like pine cones or pine needles, even straw. And that brings me to a cornucopia. Yeah, that's right, that's a pagan symbol. Bring a cornucopia into your home. It encompasses everything that you need to do and just plop it on the altar. There, done. And then lastly, mulled cider, wine. I just say cider, or for me personally, scotch. Those are things that you can kind of place on the altar as an offering to your ancestors. You can also put apples or any other kind of like fruits there too, but just keep in mind that bugs. So anything that you can protect as well, you can seal it. I mean, it's just symbolic. You can attend or start a Samhain ceremony. It's really easy. It's really easy. It sounds crazy, but it's easy. Basically, you set up a family meal with vegetables that you would find in fall. Simple enough. Make a place setting. Save some room for an ancestor or two. Make sure you serve cider, wine, or if you don't drink anything that's fall related, even apple cider, non-alcoholic you can do, no problem. Make sure you decorate with candles and fall centerpieces. Maybe even those pine cones you picked up from outside, just toss them on the table. Make sure that there's no bugs in them first. Make sure all of the food is on the table all at once. And don't forget that place setting for your ancestors. That's the most important part. And then just sit around and talk to people. Enjoy the time and talk about the ancestors. Talk about your culture. Talk about the time. talk about your year, talk about what you expect for the future. I mean, this is the time where you can literally sit and talk. And it sounds like Samhain's a lot about talking, but it's about connecting with each other. Now, side note, if you would like to give an offering to the Fae, milk, honey, or sweets, also berries and some nuts, place them out by a tree in the garden, leave them be. Seriously, leave them be. There are definitely more pieces to the celebration, but you don't have to go like crazy about it. It is a very personal thing, and it does vary per practitioner. Someone else will tell you something completely different. Again, this is kind of my thoughts and my beliefs on this, but it's important to be grateful and to remember everything that has been given to you because of where they were. So number 4, make an altar for your ancestors. Now, you can put heirlooms. I certainly have heirlooms that I keep. This is a family pin that's important to me. I also have a lot of little heirlooms that I would place on the altar. I'm just not prepared to put them up there yet because some of them are fragile, and I only do it during Samhain. So you'll see it if you join me on TikTok that day. You'll see me with my Samhain practices that day. Candles are a really important part of this. Again, you want fire. If you can put it near a fireplace, that's even better. But it's just a way to literally honor them, think about the sacrifices. For me, this is the Scottish family on the Battle of Culloden, fighting for our freedom that we still don't have, and just honoring what came before, like the sacrifices they must have made to be with me. I also have jewelry from family. This silver teapot is not from my ancestry, but I'm appreciating the fact that somebody handmade this out of silver, and it's very beautiful. So it's that type of deal for the altar. It's pieces of the past to help you remember them and talk about them. Guide the spirits. Not spirit guides, guide the spirits. Place candles in the windows. Be very careful. You can use fake ones too, or you can use flashlights. It's okay. But you definitely want to put the flashlights in the windows. There is a little prayer that we used to say. So you light the candle and you speak these words. O little flame that burns so bright, be a beacon on this night. Light the path for all the dead, that they may see now what's ahead. And lead them to the summer land and shine until Pan takes their hand. And with your light, please bring them peace, and they may rest and sleep with ease. Just a cute little poem. You don't have to memorize it. You can literally just read it. I don't have it memorized. I do read it every time. So, number 6, obviously one of my favorites, visit a cemetery. Visit the cemetery, walk around. Again, it's all about the remembering, thinking, talking to your family. Place offerings. If your family is buried in that cemetery, place offerings on their gravestone. If you want. I mean, I know it can be hard. It can even be something so small as a penny. Reflect on them. Again, be grateful for what came before. Number 7, take a beat. Relax, meditate, journal. Write down the things that you want to manifest for the year. Write in your manifestation journal. Meditate. Did I say meditate? Yes, I did. Feel pride for what you've accomplished for the year. Feel pride for what came before. Nothing ever happened without hard work, so feel that pride. I should not point at you, I'm sorry. Number 8, hold a seance. Now, I don't recommend this one as much. This is, it scares a lot of people, and you should not go into this if you're scared. So you can hold a seance. It is the time when the ancestors are able to speak to you easily. Just be very careful and have a jack-o'-lantern handy. Number 9, bonfire magic. Okay, well, not literally. Okay, here we go. As I mentioned, scrying and divination is a very important part of the year to come. So this would be where it would happen, and connect with your friends and family, dance, save room for your relatives, maybe dance with, so-and-so from the other side. Do it. Number 10, ask for guidance from your ancestors. This is the best time for you to meditate and ask your ancestors for advice, or what their thoughts are, or to be strong with you, to give you strength. It is the best time to do that. Number 11, this one is divine invocation. This is the time to honor and call upon the divine, aka God, or whatever you think makes the universe happen. This is the time to call that on and to ask for guidance from the divine. It will give you the answers, or they will give you the answers if it's multiple gods that you're looking for. Be grateful to them and ask them to aid you going forward. And try at this point to understand that life is a circle, and it's the time to accept that there is death and there is life, and it continues in a circle. So those are some steps you can take in order to celebrate Samhain. Just remember the most important thing, I probably repeated it like 8 times. This is the time to reflect. This is the time to be grateful, the time to accept, the time to plan ahead and to be hopeful for the future. You can't really go wrong here in trying. You can't really say that it doesn't work. Just be wary of people who are super stringent on rules. If it's your first time and you're really scared, don't follow someone else's path, follow your own. Don't participate in any massive ceremonies for profit. They're just trying to entertain you and their intentions are no-nos. You wanna make sure that you're surrounded by people who openly wanna celebrate with you and possibly your family. So those are kind of my thoughts on Samhain. It's my celebration. I haven't been celebrating my whole life because of course I was part of the church for a long time and they were burning books at that point. So do try to do it personally. This is all my personal feelings, my personal information, all the research that I've done over the years and things that I've started to take into practice. My home is filled with pumpkins. I really enjoy that. And I hope that I get to celebrate it with you. But I'm really excited to hear your thoughts. What are things that you do for Samhain? What are things that you would like to do? Do you have plans? Please put your comments in the comment section down below. You guys know I love hearing from you. Also be sure to like this video. And subscribe if you haven't already, ring the bell for notifications. But whether Halloween celebrants know it or not, they're following the legacy of the ancient Celts, who, with the festival of Samhain, celebrated the inevitability of life and rebirth. I hope this helps. Thanks for joining me. So spooky.